You're listening to Trek FM.
Hello and welcome to From There to Here, Trek FM's daily rewatch of Star Trek, in which we look at all 729 episodes of the franchise from beginning to end. I'm Mike.
Hi, I'm Melissa. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me. We're going to be talking about 2 episodes today, 1 Deep Space Nine episode and 1 Voyager episode. What? Oh my god, Voyager already. This year is almost over. Not quite, but, you know. All right, so the first episode that we have is a Deep Space Nine episode, and that is Past Tense Part 2. Now, just yesterday we talked about Past Tense Part 1, and in this episode, Sisko needs to take the place of Gabriel Bell, who is the guy who led the riots, the Bell riots, who you know, they're named after him. These riots, which changed the public thinking of the way that they were treating certain members of society, and eventually, you know, led them into the Roddenberry future, which we all know and love. The problem is, in addition to the fact that Gabriel Bell is dead and Sisko needs to take his place, the other problem with that is that Gabriel Bell dies in the Bell riots, and you know,
we have a few more seasons we want to see, right? We don't want there.
Yeah, we don't want Sisko to be dead. So what did you think about Past Tense Part 2?
Incredible. Another great Deep Space Nine episode. I guess we're just going to keep saying that, right?
Yeah, it's pretty much.
Kind of not too many bad ones.
I agree that it is a very good episode. I think that this is one of Deep Space Nine's best episodes, because, like we were talking about, you know, yesterday, it really does sort of deal with the social issues of today head on, you know, and I think that that's really effective. Now, what do you think about the whole thing where Sisko takes Gabriel Bell's place?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because, I mean, the whole Prime Directive, I mean, here they are, the great change up. I guess he would never have died if it wasn't for them. So, I mean, it needs to be done, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's interesting. And as you're watching it, you're kind of like, how is this going to unfold? How is he going to play this out? And I think they do a really good job with it. What is interesting about this episode is basically the view or the changes of the cops, where you're watching the one cop who is like, okay, we need to book them. And throughout the whole episode, you're like, gosh, this guy needs his attitude change. I hope his personality change. And you realize that he actually kind of does get it, but he's just, like so many people, is just so frustrated with society that he just doesn't know how to do or what to change. You see it in the scene where Sisko is talking to the cop. He pulls him aside after the cop tries to be heroic. And Sisko is like, I am trying to save your life. And you see that as frustration, because that's all he's trying to do. He's trying to save the hostage, and he's looking at this bigger scope. But he sees this cop, and he sees that this cop doesn't really care. That's how he believes. And he pulls the cop to the side, and he says, you know, it would help if you care. And not in exact words, but in so many words he says that. And the cop's like, what do you want me to say? I'm sorry. And Sisko says, that would help, you know. And
yeah, like it would be a start.
It would be a start. And, you know, when you see that scene, you're like, gosh, this guy just doesn't care. And you just learn that he's frustrated. Just like everyone else in society, he's frustrated. And that's kind of how I feel that people feel now, you know, and with some situations. You're just frustrated. You don't know how to change. And, you know, throughout the show, or throughout the episode, you see in the end that he's always kind of gotten it. You know, he always knew that there was a problem, and he just didn't know how to handle it. Yeah. And I think that's what you see with these camps.
Right. And now they are starting to change. And, you know, I mean, that's, you know, something, I mean, we see that a lot right now. There's a big, you know, problem obviously going on in America with race relations and stuff like that. And there's a lot of people who sort of have that guy's attitude, which is like, why are you doing this? And Cisco is just like so frustrated. He's like, I don't understand why you can't see that something needs to be done. Like, how do you not understand what we're doing here and how this is not important? And yeah, I mean, it's crazy how similar it is to some of the debates which are going on now, and it's kind of scary. But I mean, the thing that Star Trek has always presented is this optimistic view of the future, and the idea that yes, things are bad, but they can be better. That we are capable of overcoming these obstacles and creating a society which is better. I mean, the fact that we can apply what's going on in this episode to what's going on today is crazy, especially when you consider the fact that this episode was written 22 years ago,
And things haven't changed much.
Well, I think that, if anything, things have gotten closer to this reality. And you look at, how, like, we're closer
it's kind of
to
scary,
the year
actually.
that this episode is set in than the year that, it was made in. And, man, they totally called this stuff on a lot of levels, and it's crazy. So, but then again,
They called it, or they tried to warn us.
Well,
Like, Star
I
Trek
think
kind of
both.
puts in a
Yeah.
place, and they're like, hey, society, just kind of watch this,
Yeah.
so we don't go in this direction. But I
Yeah.
think the right people aren't watching.
that could be.
Even like the negotiations that they have with the governor or, the liaison. It's like, oh
it's
my
like
gosh, that's what you want?
right out of the headlines in a lot of ways. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's what Star Trek has always been, and that's why I think it's been around for 50 years, and why people love it, because they can really relate. And yeah, I mean,
They're not afraid to put it out there.
No,
It's
which is
interesting because
great.
we saw the Whoopi Goldberg or Whoopi panel.
Yes.
Whoopi panel. And she talked about how Star Trek always talks about these issues, but they can't hit you over the head on it because people will get a little terrified. But it's always there.
Yeah.
And it's so true. When she said that, it's like, yes, they do bring all these things up, but, in a subtle way that
Yep.
hopefully society can understand.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
Deep Space Nine's not quite subtle.
No, sometimes it's not. It's not
Which is what we
subtle.
like about it.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's not. But yeah. All right. Well, should we move on to our next episode for today?
Wait, what did you think about the time travel? Like when they were going back and forth? Did you find that
Well,
fun?
it was amusing. Like there's the part where they see the hippies and they transport out in front of the hippies, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh no!" and the hippies are like, "Far out," or whatever.
And the
But-
Gatsby time? I don't know if it's Gatsby time, but I love the Gatsby.
like the Prohibition era kind of thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
Yeah. It was fun.
It was comic relief that worked.
Yes, it was comic relief that worked. I think, though, and I think that was definitely needed in an episode like this, which is so heavy. All right. So let's move on to our next episode, which is the first episode of Voyager, Caretaker. Now, this is the pilot in which they set up the premise of the show. Janeway and company go to find a Maquis ship, led by Chakotay, and they go into the Badlands, and in the process, they're swept away to the other side of the galaxy, the Delta Quadrant, where they're stranded for 75 years, essentially. It's a 75-year journey home. And, yeah.
Well, they're stranded because of her.
I guess you could say that they're stranded because of her, because she's not willing to sacrifice the ideals of the Federation in order to, personally get themselves home.
She is completely going against the Prime Directive. Tuvok points that out because she's interfering with their state. Like, she is using their technology to alter their history. The Caretaker has died. They have not done anything to cause the death upon the Caretaker, and she decides to blow up the array to save their lives, to continue the Caretaker's wishes. The Caretaker interfered. He broke the Federation's Prime Directive, but she did not. So she was having a moral dilemma. She was not following.
Yeah,
I think.
I guess, and I mean, it's one of the strong points of this episode is this, moral dilemma, and the idea of sacrificing yourself, for the greater good, and standing by your morals or whatever, and over self-preservation in a lot of ways, and I think that's kind of an interesting premise. So, what did you think about the episode?
I like this episode a lot. So my history with Star Trek is basically I watched a few episodes, I wasn't taken by it, and then I watched all of it, kind of like you guys are doing now.
Yeah.
I did it like within a year.
Yeah, you did it in less time than we're doing it.
Yeah, so I just was so hooked. So I think I have kind of a, I don't know, I feel like maybe it's different than most people.
Yeah.
Perspective, and I love this episode. Like when I saw this, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be awesome, because Kate Mulgrew is like incredible. Like when I saw her, as the captain, I'm like, oh, where has she been? Like she is an incredible captain. She is like so like strong. Like, yeah, we're going to do it this way. And I love that about her. She's so powerful. And I love her acting. I mean, she's a great actress, and she just commands, that bridge,
Yeah.
and that crew. And I just love it. I love her, and I love this episode. I love like the fact that they've talked about the Maquis before, and you see that's brought back. This continuation is what it's so great about Star Trek. I love the introduction of new species, but then also that they brought in old species, which made it kind of familiar, like with the Vulcan. Just kind of miss them, a little bit. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's always great having a Vulcan on the bridge. And, I mean, it was just so well done. The storytelling was great. The acting all around was great. I love all of the acting. I was so excited when I saw this. Like, I couldn't wait for more.
Yeah.
So.
We talked about this a little bit a couple days ago with Generations, but this was sort of like, the ultimate time to be a Star Trek fan because there was so much going on. You had a new series, a beloved series ending, a new movie, all of this stuff happening at the same time. And I vividly remember watching this, the night that it aired and being blown away. I was so excited about it prior to it coming out. I thought that this, hearing the premise, seeing the look of the ship and everything, I thought this is going to be my show. This is going to be the best Star Trek we've ever seen. And the pilot did not disappoint. I go back and forth a lot as to whether or not this is the best pilot in Star Trek's history. And, I know when we did Emissary, I said that I think Emissary is the best because it had that payoff. It's more integrated into the show. But if you were to just show me all of the pilots without any series context or anything like that and say, like, okay, you're a television executive. You need to green light one of these shows. Which one are you going to green light? I would have greenlit Voyager based on the pilot. So,
I love it. Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah.
And they do a great job setting it up. And in the coming months, we're going to get to see the follow-through.
Yeah.
And that should be interesting.
Yeah, when I saw this pilot, I don't know, I thought it was going to be like this kind of cross between like Enterprise and I had some like Deep Space Nine because I just saw it all the way through. So like I saw like, oh my gosh, they're stranded. I was thinking Xindi arc going on here.
Yeah.
So I was really excited about it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
And for all the new people, if they have the same reaction that we did, I'd love to get that opinion too.
Yeah, definitely. Go to the Babel conference and tell us what you think about these 2 episodes. All right. So you're still off the grid. You're stranded in the Delta Quadrant of social media.
Yeah, I need Janeway to help me get back.
Okay.
To social media, right?
All right.
Is
so
that how it goes?
Yeah, in about 75 years, you'll be back on Twitter. In the meantime, you can find me on Twitter at Mumbles3K, and you can also find me hosting Stage 9, where we talk about the people who make Star Trek right here on Trek.fm. Melissa, thank you very much for joining me for this block. It was great. You're welcome back anytime.
Thanks for having me.
So we won't be back tomorrow, but Aaron and Daniel will, to talk about 2 more episodes of Star Trek, Parallax and time and again.